Welcome to episode 50.
Hey, this is John Lee Dumas of EO Fire, and you're listening to Who Did That Voice, where we take an in-depth look at voiceovers.
It's a new year, and if you're like me, you were already thinking about warmer weather and taking that getaway to that tropical or exotic destination. Maybe you plan to travel to Walt Disney World or Universal Studios. No matter what kind of trip you plan, 3D Travel Company is the company for you. Just visit 3dtravelcompany.com and let them know that Trenton sent you from Who Did That Voice. Or you can book on www.whodidthatvoice.co and click the Book Now button. For a limited time, Who Did That Voice listeners can receive a Disney gift card for qualifying Disney and Universal trips booked and traveled by the end of 2017. Book today and travel away.
Welcome to Who Did That Voice, the show where we take an in-depth look at voiceover. And now, here's your host, Trenton Larkin.
Woohoo, you guys! We did it! 50 episodes! It is so exciting to be celebrating our golden anniversary 50 episodes later. Woohoo! Thank you guys so much for listening here in the United States, Canada, and around the world in numerous countries that there are so many I just can't even name them all. But thank you, each and every one of you, from the bottom of my heart. Here's to the 50 we've had, and here's to 50 more. Yeah! See you guys later. Hope you enjoyed today's episode, episode 50. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the show. Today's special guest is someone you might remember who wears a lot of blue and has a big cannon on his arm. It's Mega Man.
Come on, Rush, let's check it out. Plasma power!
Today's special guest was also the original voice of Goku from Dragon Ball.
Well, if your friend is stronger than you, I guess you're the third strongest Saiyan now.
Our special guest also had the chance to be on the show Reboot. For a while, Bob went missing, but when he came back, he became Glitch Bob. Here's a clip from that show.
I want to be with Dot, but I think she likes the other guy better. So decompile and separate me from Glitch.
Today's final clip that we're going to share with you is from the character he played, Cheetor on Beast Wars. Maximals, maximize!
The way those two reacted, that's no natural life form. And if we're talking unnatural life forms, then we gotta be talking about just one thing. Robots in disguise! Cheater! Maximize! Time for this cat to pounce!
Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Who Did That Voice. Today on the show we have Ian James Corlett joining us. Ian, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Pleasure to be here.
Well, Ian, the very first thing we always like to do is just to get a brief story on who our special guest is. And Ian, how did you get into voiceover?
Well, I will try to give you the shorter story, but it'll still be long. Basically, since I was a kid, I was into performing and filmmaking. And my earliest stuff was working with puppets and ventriloquism. And as part of that, obviously, there's a lot of voice stuff that you do.
Yeah.
So that's the early days. And then in my teens, I made student films, and a lot of them were animated. So I would, and believe me, it was really even tough to put sound on those things, working with film pre-video and a lot of that technology that we take for granted today. But I did my voices for those productions. And then years later, there was a really strong commercial production community in Vancouver. And I was hearing these voices that I recognized from being radio actors and sort of local personalities. And I went, hey, I think I could do that. So I banged on the door and started doing commercials, because there was a lot of work in commercials then at that time. This would be like early 80s. And then from that, the animation work started to come to Vancouver. And one of the resources that the companies that were coming in used was the current commercial producers, because they knew who the voices were. So that's how I kind of slid into doing animation. But, as I just mentioned from my history, animation and performing was something that I did from a very young age. And I was a huge Disney fan before it was kind of cool. It was actually super uncool to be a Disney fan back then. So I was a big animation guy. And that's the short story.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of Disney, that brings to mind, what is your favorite Disney animated film and why?
Oh, that's a really tough one, but I'll tell you that I really like The Rescuers.
Oh, excellent.
And I think it's because it was kind of like the last movie that I saw in a theater when I was sort of the target audience. I should look it up because I can't really remember what the year was, but it's not that I think it's the best Disney animated film, but it's the one that just kind of stuck with me. I just really liked it. And I love Bob Newhart. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, I love Rescuers, but I also loved Rescuers Down Under more than The Rescuers. So,
and I'm not even sure if I saw that one.
It was great. It was really good.
Was Evan Rood in both of them, or was that maybe? Because maybe I did see it.
That was the one where they went to like Australia, and there was like the Australian mouse, and he's like, "Good eye, yo."
Oh yeah. Right.
And there was the guy with the lizard and everything. But anyway, another story for another day. But
yes.
No, those are great shows, absolutely. And I'm an avid Disney fan as well. Talking about different animations, what was it like working on the 1994 animated show Mega Man, where you actually played Mega Man and Rush, his dog?
Oh, that was great, because a lot of shows you do and you get cast in, you're not really sure what the project is. Like is this kind of, I don't know, is this going to be something, or are people going to know what it is? Is it going to resonate? But with Mega Man, the game was already out. And I just went, oh, this is cool. And it was fun and silly, and all the villains were really stupid. So I like stupid, and it was really fun. And it's always great when you do a show that fans just really eat up. So that was almost an automatic, and I really thought that was pretty cool.
Well, it's always been a favorite of mine. The way the animation was done, the way the characters were together on the show, the theme song was killer. It was just a great show. So
yeah, and it's one of the it's one of those characters. I mean, I've got a handful of them that just, I mean, people just love them, and they're getting to be middle-aged fans now, which is really wild. When these guys come up and, oh, I just loved Mega Man. You were my childhood. And oh, wow.
Yeah, well, they've done a lot of different renditions of Mega Man, and he is still to this date my favorite. They have not been able to top him, in my opinion. And the 94 series it was so well done.
Oh, well, thank you.
You're very welcome. Well, speaking of amazing roles you've gotten to play, you also got to be on Transformers Beast Wars as Cheetor, and that was just super amazing. What was it like getting to work on that show with that great cast of people?
Well, you took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, again, that was one that I was really excited about because I was very aware of Transformers.
Yeah.
And I knew that this was going to be something pretty big. And then when I got in the room and went, oh, okay, this is going to be fun, because we got Scotty and we got Gary and we got David Kaye. And it's funny, David Kaye, who's turned into, the monster that he is in the business. That was one of his earlier shows. Like I remember seeing him getting interviewed and saying terribly nice things about the rest of the cast, because like he was sort of like, oh man, you guys have been working in this for so long, and he was really like a sponge, and he's really good, like he's definitely not didn't seem like a rookie or anything.
Yeah.
But I do remember him saying that in the course of that production. But aside from the individuals, I mean, the cast was just really fun. Jim Burns put up with us because he was kind of the elder statesman and constantly going, "Oh, geez, you guys."
And for those who don't know the name Jim Burns, he did play Dr. Light on Mega Man as well as Inferno on Beast Wars. Was it Inferno? I think. Yeah.
I think it was. Yeah, because we just did a fan convention in Toronto, Jim and I. We haven't seen each other for years. It was just crazy.
Wow.
And had a great time. And that's right. I totally forgot. We were in both those shows. And we had the same fans coming up, going, "Oh, man, you guys were in both shows," taking pictures and stuff. It was really cool.
Well, and you were with Gary Chalk in both shows, too. He was, of course, Optimus Primal, and he was Gutsman.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done lots and lots of stuff with Gary. One of the other shows we did together, which was another really fun one, also based on a video game, was Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, that is an excellent show as well.
Yeah, that was really fun. Gary, pretty much we recorded kind of a skeleton cast. It was me, Gary Chalk, and Phil Hayes recording with Long John Baldry, who played Dr. Robotnik.
Oh, wow.
And those those sessions were insane. It was really, really fun. That was crazy.
I bet it was an amazing time, because there were tons of people there that were definitely well known in the voiceover industry at that time. So, and still are to this day. So,
yeah.
Ian, I want to know, what was it like getting to work on the anime show Dragon Ball Z? There are a lot of different animes, but this has to be one of my favorite that you've done, playing Goku and Master Roshi, along with, I'm sure, other ancillary characters. But what was it like getting to play those two iconic characters?
Well, if I can just tell you the history of that. I mean, the industry in Vancouver was already doing a bunch of dubbing, and we had done things out of Japan, and I had a little company that would get hired to reversion from Japanese there would be an English translation, like a literal translation of the script, and then we would have to take that, because it didn't make any sense, and make it into sort of English. So we were already kind of doing a bunch of that sort of work when a company approached us who said, "We've got these clients. They're from Dallas or Texas anyway." And they've got this project they want to do, and it's Japanese. Apparently it's pretty big, and we had no idea what Dragon Ball was. No idea.
Yeah.
Now this is the very, very, very first English dubs that were done on this. So in walk these two guys who look more like IBM salesmen. Pressed white shirts and chinos, and they look like executives, and they kind of went, "Well, we got this project. My partner's uncle or something, who was a Japanese guy, an American Japanese, his uncle had the rights to this show, and he says, so we want to make a show. We understand you guys know what you're doing." And we went, "Sure, of course." So we start, writing and translating and making it all it can be, and I end up being Goku, the very first English Goku, and recording this stuff. And frankly, and I know fans really don't like hearing this, but I didn't like it. I just didn't like it.
Really?
Because, well, it's grueling work, and we had some kind of funky union agreements at the time that meant that you didn't get paid all that much for a lot of really tough screaming and sledding, and it wasn't great.
Yeah.
So that's why I exited when I did, because I just went, this is getting too hard on me. But recording that stuff. So the point of my story is, like, I was really involved at a producer level right at the very beginning of this. So we were intimately familiar. And that is one of the projects that I freely admit I was so wrong on. Like, sometimes you do a project and you go, "Oh man, this is going to be awesome." and then there's other ones where you just go, "Oh, whatever." and I didn't get it. I thought the stories were weird. I don't know what it was. It wasn't my bag.
Yeah.
And sure enough, of course, the one that is like that I was just couldn't be more wrong about was one of the most popular things I ever did in my whole career. So score one against me.
Well, I mean, it is a long-running show. In fact, they're fixing to voice a new series for it. But I know there's been, several different actors who voiced Goku, at this point. But yeah, it's something there's a lot of fans that really like what you did because of how you did scream and your voice didn't crack. And there was just a lot of good feedback from fans of the series online. And
well, I'll tell you this: the actors that we cast, because we actually cast that first group, the originals.
Yeah.
They're all actors. I mean, they're real actors that are working voiceover actors, and it was just another thing that we did as a matter of course. So I know this is going to be controversial, but when the production moved from Vancouver, okay, there was that original cast, and I like to kind of tease the other guys who followed me, because there was several. I mean, there was Peter Kalamis, Kirby Morrow was a Goku for a while, and then after it left Vancouver, I didn't really pay much attention to who it was, because I didn't know any of those guys. But the Vancouver group, like, we tease each other. It's like, I was the first Goku. Oh, well, I was the second one, or and we all get along, and it's like a good time was had by all.
That's good.
But
that's good.
But it's really entertaining to me to watch. Every once in a while, like someone will post something on Twitter, and it's like, who's the best Goku? And then you see how passionate fans are about their favorite voice of their favorite character, and it's pretty fun to see. And actually, some of the actors, the people I don't know, once it moved from Vancouver, like, some of the actors are get pretty passionate about it too. Like, they're a little touchy. Let me just put it that way. Like, I mean, what we should be doing is going, hey, the fans, some fans hate me, some fans love another guy. It's like, that's awesome that you even care.
Yeah.
And don't get too wrapped up in it. So,
yeah,
but it was
out of shape.
Exactly. What a great thing to have been a part of.
Yeah.
And I just openly admit, man, was I wrong.
Well, I'm glad you shared that story with us, because, learning about the behind the scenes stuff and kind of what voiceover really is all about, it's great to hear these different stories. So I really appreciate you diving into it, Ian.
Happy to.
Well, Ian, back in 1994, I believe you were on another show called Reboot.
Oh, yes.
And you played Bob, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Well, I played Glitch Bob.
Glitch Bob, okay.
Which was, and here's one of those things where Michael Benyere, or Benyere, I really know him, and I never know how to pronounce his last name. But anyway, he was the first Bob, and here's a story that maybe people haven't heard.
Yeah.
The show's super popular. Like, it's the first CGI series ever. It's an awesome show. It's big. It's, on a big American network, and everyone's just clinking champagne glasses. So Michael decides he's for the betterment of his career that he's going to move to Los Angeles. And I'm going to kind of abbreviate the story. And there was, some scheduling problems, and, can he still voice Bob back in Vancouver? And he was kind of going, well, maybe I can just, do it from LA, or, just stuff happens, right?
Yeah.
And he famously said, in the midst of all of this stuff, because I think the producers are getting kind of pissy about just, they're the kings of the world, right? And you're supposed to just, when they say jump, you say how high, and whenever there's a wrinkle, sometimes things get kind of funny. So anyway, Michael famously said, "Well, you can't fire me because I'm Bob." And the producers were so petty that they went, "Oh yeah?" And they fired him.
Wow.
And then they rewrote the series to say that Bob, got chewed up by a virus in the net and then spit out the other end, and then they called him Glitch Bob. And that's who I played. So, so it was meant to sound pretty much like Bob, but if anyone was paying attention and asking, it was like, oh no, well it's a different Bob because he's got a virus, so that's why he sounds different. So he looked different, and he sounded different, and then they made up, and Bob came back at the end of that run. So that's another funny voiceover story.
Well, absolutely. I've never heard that. And I always found the show very fascinating because I was pretty sure that it was the first CGI show, but I wasn't sure on that. But it was just so unique for its time.
Oh,
and,
no kidding.
I was like, wow, he was on Reboot. And the cool thing about Reboot is they're rebooting it.
Yeah. Well, just to give you another little bit of history, the guys who produced that show produced the first CGI music video, which was the Dire Straits' Money for Nothing. So it's the same guys, and then they went, hey, we should do a TV series, and that's how it happened.
Wow. That is so cool. I really appreciate you diving into Reboot because it's been a show that I'm sure a lot of people have attached to. I haven't found a lot of other people that have related to it with me, but it was a show that just really impacted my life along with Mega Man and Beast Wars, and they all had just such a unique flair. So I really appreciate you diving into that as well.
No problem. I would say that probably it sounds like Reboot for you was like Tron for me. When I saw Tron, the movie, the first one, because the story is actually kind of similar. I just went, oh, that is really cool. And interestingly enough, I'm pretty sure, and I'm sure a fan will correct me on this, I'm pretty sure that Tron was the first or one of the first to use any kind of computer animation in a feature film.
That's very possible. It sure is. But yeah, I guess Reboot would kind of be my Tron, but I was a huge fan of the original Tron too.
Yeah. Awesome.
So,
awesome film. Loved it.
And Ian, during my research with all these shows that I was like, wow, and your voice is very like noticeable as Goku and Mega Man and even as Cheetor. I mean, I didn't realize it until I researched it and I was like, oh, I totally see that, but I didn't totally hear it at first. But the one voice that really threw me was Johnny Test's dad, Hugh Test. I was You've got to be kidding me.
See, and it's funny. Out of all of those that you listed, I kind of go, all of those guys sound exactly like me. Yeah. In my head. Yeah. In my head. Because I go, Cheetor is, hey, come on, big bot. He's like the young kind of heroic guy, and Glitch Bob was pretty much, hey, come on guys, young heroic guy. And Mega Man was pretty much, come on dog, let's go do some action things. So like those to me sound really similar. Yeah. And then Hugh Test is just me, sort of sounding like this, Johnny, and that also sounds like me. So like the ones I feel like now I'm trying to think of some extreme. The characters like Dr. Wily. Yeah. Going way back to Captain N. I mean, those are the ones that I really sink my teeth into because I like not sounding anything like me. Yeah. Because Dr. Wily was like, it sounds like an old German guy with asthma. and like coconuts on Sonic the Hedgehog,
Oh, please don't put me on pit sanitation control.
Patrol. Wait a minute. Let's redo that.
Oh, please don't put me on sanitation
I can't even say it. Anyway, you get the idea.
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
those. I love doing those sorts of voices.
Yeah.
And the ones that were probably the biggest, fan favorites kind of sound like me.
Yeah. Well, another one that doesn't sound like you was the Rebbot on the Barbie Rapunzel.
Oh, now wait a minute. Oh, good. Ooh, wow. You threw me. I'm trying to even remember that. Was that guy British?
Yes, the Rebbot was British.
Well, that sounds like something that you're going to edit into a lovely sound bite so that we can all remember. Because I remember doing the production. I don't remember that voice.
Yeah, and I believe you were like a baker or something else as well in that show, the Barbie Rapunzel. But yeah, I was like, wow, my sister used to watch the heck out of that, and I had no clue that was Ian James Corlett. But yeah, anyway, so, bringing back memories from memory lane here.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you diving into all these different shows, Ian. It's been great reminiscing about shows that you've been on and kind of getting some of the background stories on some of these amazing animations and animated shows. What kind of advice would you give to somebody who might be interested in pursuing a voiceover career for themselves?
My biggest piece of advice is learn how to act. That's the number one thing. I think a lot of people initially feel that voice acting is doing a crazy, funny voice. And while that is important, the acting is what is underneath that crazy, funny voice. So, if you happen to live in a major center, like New York, Toronto, Los Angeles, Vancouver, you're in great shape because there's lots of acting going on. You can take classes, take it in school, take acting classes. Just act, and then you can specialize and start working on the voices. So that's the foundation of everything. Learn how to act.
Absolutely, Ian. Thank you so much for sharing that advice with me and my listeners. Do you have a website or social media or a way for fans to reach out to you, or maybe if they have questions?
Yeah, I do. I'm pretty active on Twitter. And I think that is Ian James 007, because I'm a big James Bond fan. Man, I can't talk today because I'm a big James Bond fan. That's what I meant to say. And I'm also on Instagram. There's lots of stuff on Instagram. That's kind of my main thing because I'm pretty visual. And on Instagram, I am Ian James Corlett.
Thank you so much for sharing that with our listeners. That way people can reach out to you if they're fans or maybe they have some questions about VO.
Yeah.
Well, what kind of cartoon character or cartoon show was your favorite as a kid growing up, Ian, and why?
I watched the Bugs Bunny Roadrunner Hour religiously. It was on Saturday afternoons, kind of wedged in between wrestling and Hockey Night in Canada. And it was like, I remember musing about this and having discussions with my brothers and my cousins about, what the best animation was. And I always felt like Warner Brothers was the funny, but Disney was the art.
Yeah.
And I still feel that, like there was nothing funnier than those Bugs Bunny and Yosemite Sam. I wasn't such a fan of Roadrunner. I just went, man, this is like so repetitive. But but Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck and all of those things were great. So we used to, have discussions about Disney versus Warner Brothers, and that was when I was pretty young. And then I really started when I became more of a student of animation. This is way before I was doing voices professionally. I remember finding out about guys like Tex Avery, who just did insane comedic shorts, and it was pretty cool. And then it was so interesting that I think it was in the late 90s, I ended up voicing a bunch of characters for a series that Deke did called The Wacky World of Tex Avery, which was a tribute to Tex Avery and the style of animation that he did. So it was really cool when that kind of came around 360. So, my point in bringing all this stuff up is that like animation has been a huge part of my life since before I started doing voices.
Yeah.
And you hear that from people, and this is going to sound a bit snarky, but I talk to actors and they go, oh yeah, I was totally into cartoons and stuff. And you go, yeah, when you meet someone who was really into cartoons back then, there's a big difference. Like, because as I said right at the outset, it was not cool to, like, we did not have the nerd culture that we have now where it's awesome, and there's these huge numbers of people and they know every cartoon that's ever been made, and it sort of transfers into video games and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But like when I was going to Disneyland, I mean, I remember walking around there thinking I was in a cartoon. Like, it was just so awesome. And that was like way before the crowds that, I mean, you go to Disneyland today and it's like a different world. But it's been a big part of my life. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate you diving into it, Ian, because it's obvious that you have a real passion for it, especially when you talk about cartoons, not just ones you've been in, but ones that you have a passion for and love. So it's awesome to hear that, because the enthusiasm in your voice is so genuine and honest. I think it's awesome.
Thank you.
So, man, that's awesome. Well, it's been one heck of an interview, man. We have covered some amazing topics, some amazing shows you've done. And I just have one final question for you today before I let you go, Ian.
Sure.
The question is, what is the legacy that you want to leave behind?
Oh, wow. I first of all, I don't feel like I'm there yet. Not meaning that I'm not ready to die, because that should be obvious. But I feel like I want to build and leave a legacy much larger than what is currently on the resume.
Absolutely.
So while I'm really proud, despite my miscalculation of Dragon Ball, that there are legions of fans for that show. I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud of the stuff that we've talked about that are clear fan favorites. But I want to add and build on that. I want to be in even larger things. I don't know what those are yet. I would love to be the voice of something permanent in Disneyland.
I was going to say like a Disney prince.
Oh yeah, it'd be like, that would be fantastic. So yeah. I guess I it makes me feel fantastic that there's the amount of fans that have loved what I've done so far. But I really feel like I'm not really answering your question, because I kind of feel like the best is yet to come.
I totally agree with you. I mean, I understand what you're saying is that you don't feel like you've accomplished every goal that you want to for that legacy to be left behind, which is a great stepping stone of, thought process for you to even be like, hey, what is the legacy I want to fully, completely have when I get there? What is that ultimate goal? So,
yeah, I would love to, we're so far past the Mel Blanc era where, Mel is this icon that almost every fan knows, because now the landscape is so full of actors that are carrying on what he kind of started. So no one person is going to have that kind of legacy. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So what I'm hoping for is that there are, that there's something even bigger, funner, greater that I'm about to do that will just make up the rest of that.
Absolutely. Something you'll be remembered for all time, because it was that epic.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
I don't feel like, and it's not taking anything away from Dragon Ball or the Transformers things or Johnny Test or whatever, because those are like segments of fans, and it's fantastic. But I just feel like it's hazy in front of me, but there's something there.
Yeah, you've been building a proverbial house and you're just waiting to put the roof on.
Yeah, good one.
So, each brick is each show that you do or character, and as you build that up, you're just waiting to put that final touch on the house and finish it up.
Yep. Totally agree.
Well, Ian, I really appreciate your time, and I thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Love it.
Well, Ian, thank you so very much for being on the show today. It has been an absolute honor and pleasure having you. Would you please give us a closeout today as Mega Man, Goku, and Cheetor?
Yes, I will. It's been an absolute pleasure to be on Who Sizzling Circuits Did Ultra Gear That Dr. Riley Voice Kamehameha!
Hey everyone, I sure hope you enjoyed today's episode with Ian James Corlett, the voice of Mega Man. And if you did, please stop on by my Facebook or Twitter pages by searching Who Did That Voice. I would love to hear from you. A question you might ask yourself is, where can I listen to Who Did That Voice? That's an excellent question. You can hear us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, and our website at www.whodidthatvoice.co. Click the episodes tab and listen away. Well, everyone, that's all the time we have for this episode. Join us this Friday for our next special guest, Christina Malizia, who played Monica from Welcome to Monster High. You won't want to miss this episode. Hey, do you ask yourself who did that voice? Well, if you do, go to our website, www.whodidthatvoice.co, and click on the Episodes tab. Choose an actor, pick their name, and see pictures from the different characters they voiced in their career.
Thank you for joining us today. We'll see you next time for more discoveries on Who Did That Voice.